This special extended episode of the Switched On Network podcast was recorded on Tuesday the 31st of March 2020, 1 week after the United Kingdom was placed in a state of lockdown due to the global coronavirus pandemic. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Switched On Network podcast. This is normally the podcast which helps you keep switched on to the world of technology, gadgets and the internet. But this week, as I'm sure you'll have noticed, it's got a slightly different twist, and we're going to be talking about how technology is helping us cope with lockdown and social distancing, etc. during the coronavirus crisis, and also what the tech industry is doing to help.
Listen, watch, and get switched on to the latest technology trends and gadgets with switchedonnetwork.com.
So hello and welcome back to another episode, and for the very first time on the Switched On Network podcast, we have a special guest. We're here with Ben the Noob as normal. I was going to make a joke in this episode about how we probably don't need to call him Ben the Noob anymore because due to the podcast, he's getting less newbie with each week.
Well, yeah, and also my girlfriend did see your tweet the other day and say, "Why is Paul calling you Ben the Boob?" And I went, "No, read it again." So maybe just Ben Anderson from now on, because I do feel more confident.
I'm going to have to go and redo all the branding for the podcast now to call you Ben, either Ben the Boob or Ben Anderson. Just
I know which one I prefer.
Well, yeah, obviously Ben the Boob. And so, I'd like to welcome our first ever guest onto the podcast, Tom Anderson.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing, Tom?
Very well, thank you. Slightly isolated, but good apart from that, thanks.
Good. You sound like you've got a slightly bunged up. Have you got a bit of a cold?
You know what? I think I've been seeing from a lot of people on Twitter and things like that I've just, since this isolation started, I haven't been unwell, but I've not been particularly well either. I've just kind of had a consistent level of a blocked up nose and a bit of a headache. I don't think it's coronavirus.
I think a lot of people are getting paranoid, aren't they, and say, I've got this, could this be it? And it's of driving slight levels of paranoia. But anyway, tell us about yourself, and who are you and what do you do?
I'm a musician. I'm in a band called Venus Demilo. We're based in Liverpool, just like you guys. So until about 3 weeks ago when live music completely stopped, and we now do it all online, as we will discuss.
Yeah, so we're going to be discussing how various industries and how various people are coping with the new normal, which is strange. And obviously it's really weird not knowing how long this situation is going to last. It's sort of a completely open-ended type situation. Have you been coping, Ben, in the world of podcasting and all the rest of it?
Yeah, interesting. It's I've been busy, which is great, because I think, I know we want to talk a little bit about effects on mental as well as physical health a bit later on, but I need to keep busy personally. I'm one of those people where as long as my diary's full, then I've got something to think about and something to do, then I tend to be all right. Podcasting for the first week actually dropped overall. Because obviously you think people are at home and therefore loads more time to listen to audio. But actually, I think because people were out of their normal routine, they weren't obviously listening on the bus. They weren't listening while driving. Podcast listening dropped and everyone just went to Netflix and went, right, let's binge on this, let's binge on that, let's watch The Tiger King, which I started last night, which is very good. If you haven't watched it yet, it's definitely worth a watch. Yeah. This week, podcast listening has come back again. So we're busy, and actually we've kind of expanded the number of shows we do. So we've never have done this before, but we've got 3 daily podcasts now. First of all, because people have got more time to produce them, but also we're kind of trying the shorter form daily rather than the kind of longer weekly episodes. And they're going down really well. We've got the big pod quiz has launched with my brother Charlie, because he's a pub quiz host in the Northwest. But obviously he can't go into the pubs and do what he does. So we've launched the big pod quiz instead of pub quiz. Haha, very good.
Excellent. Love it.
That went down really, really well. So then we had lots of people saying, we'd love to be able to do this with our kids. So then we launched the big pod quiz for kids, which is my girlfriend's 11-year-old, Alfie, hosting it and doing 10 questions a day. Music Mondays, TV and Film Tuesdays, Wide World Wednesdays. And then A Girl and a Gay in the Gym, which is another one of which is our health and fitness format that's a weekly release. We're now doing 10 minutes of morning motivation because Hattie and Richie, Hattie is a personal trainer, so is Richie, but he's also a qualified life coach. And so it's just 10 minutes in the morning. It's released at 6 a.m. And people can kind of listen to it and just put them in a positive mindset for the rest of the day. So I think, for me, I know we're going to be talking about the effect on work and everything else. I've been recording podcasts remotely for the last year anyway. We've got contributors all across the country, so we're kind of used to it. I think for me, it's just been the volume of work that's increased that's kind of taken my breath away a bit, and I haven't really had much time to think about coronavirus. So yeah, and mate, I'm all good. Obviously, we've got the kids at home as well, so that's a slight change.
A challenge, yeah.
Yeah,
I should say to the listeners that from either mine or Ben's end on this recording, you may hear the sound of children happily playing downstairs, or because obviously we're all at our homes at the moment, as are the kids. Yeah.
Well, you say playing. I've left them working because I am the headmaster at the moment.
Very good. Yeah, we're on an inset day today, I think.
We need to introduce a few of those.
Yeah, I've seen. I mean, that's one of the great things that we've seen. I've seen so much good humour. I think, especially us Brits, we're good at just we'll take the mick out of any situation and find that the funniness in it. There was one thing on Facebook last night. Someone shared these images where they encourage people post the 7th photo on your phone or something, but this take on it was, I'm sick of all the negative news on Facebook, so cheer us all up by sharing a photo of the front and back of your credit card.
My favourite one that's been doing the rounds, have you seen the video on WhatsApp of the guy listening to the coronavirus helpline? Would you A, to self-isolate with your wife and child, or yes. B?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a cracker.
That's brilliant. Yeah, there have been some slightly ruder ones, but like the thing I love about homeschooling is that I'm sleeping with my kid's teacher and stuff like that. We're going to discuss mental health as well. We don't want to focus so much on protecting our physical health by shielding us from this virus that we damage our mental health, because that would be counterintuitive. Plus, our physical health and fitness needs to be looked after as well. I'm very grateful that at the time of recording, at least, we're still allowed to go out for runs and bike rides. So I've been doing that, and I'm hoping to do that later today as well, which is obviously really important. Now, for the benefit of our international audience, I thought I'd run over what the rules are in the UK right now at the moment. Obviously, they might change by the time this goes out. They might change by the time we even finish recording this episode. But at the moment, we're only allowed to leave the house for very limited purposes. That's shopping for bare necessities, for example, food and medicine. And that should be as infrequent as possible. I think beer and wine is included in a bare necessity, isn't it? Definitely.
Absolutely.
Obviously, that's going to help our mental health with this. One form of exercise a day, for example, a run, walk or cycle, either alone or with members of your household. There's been loads of rumours that your bike ride, especially in various cycling groups that I'm in, that your bike ride should be an hour or less, but that's currently not true. There's no time limit. It's just, don't take the mick type thing. You can leave the home for any medical need, including to donate blood, avoid or escape a risk of injury or harm. So I guess they're saying if your house is falling down, you don't have to stay indoors and observe the lockdown, which is good, or to provide care or to help a vulnerable person. And you're allowed to travel to and from work, but only where you cannot work from home. So those are the current rules. And yeah, how are you guys finding it? Are you going stir crazy in your house? Ben, you said you're keeping quite busy with all the extra podcast stuff you're doing, which is brilliant. What about you, Tom?
I'm finding it changeable day by day, because I think it's really important what Ben was saying earlier about what they're doing with a girl and a gay in the gym, which is about encouraging positive mindset. Because I think your start to the day is so important to the rest of your day. Because I don't know about you guys, but I was finding, especially in the first few days, that so I started by saying, right, I'm just going to carry on as if it was normal. And then slowly but surely that kind of got phased out, and I was waking up later, going to bed later, but also finding that I was thinking, well, because this is, an unlimited amount of time, I was finding it really hard to motivate myself to do anything. I mean, I've actually put trousers on today for you guys, but it's no, but I think
you shouldn't have. You shouldn't have done, Tom.
Yeah,
I treat you.
Ben, please don't stand up.
No, just normal loungewear for me.
Joking aside, I think it's one of those things where you can slip into bad habits mentally in terms of not looking after yourself at times like this. So I think it's been one of those things where when I've not encouraged myself to do something, I've found myself definitely getting more down than I'd usually be. But then also when you kind of push yourself to go, no, right, come on, let's go and let's do some work, or let's do something productive, you start to kind of get used to it. So
yeah, definitely
ups and downs.
I think escapism is more important than ever. You can sit and watch a film and for 2 hours you forget about it. And when you wake up in the morning, it's not necessarily always the first thing on your mind. You've got that sort of blissful few seconds before you remember everything that's going on. And I think now more than ever, mental health and talking about mental health in the last 10 to 15 years, I mean, we're still probably got quite a long way to go, but we've improved as a society so much. It's less of a taboo. People talk about it more. It's not seen as a weakness as much. And the whole we must talk to each other and look out for each other is even more important in a time like this, because it is really upsetting. And when you stop and think about it, you can involve yourself too much in looking at the figures and the death rates and everything, and you just think, what is happening to the world? But then it's like any statistic, it can be twisted around and make you feel good or bad. But then you look at how many people have recovered from the coronavirus and all the good that's being done, and all the, sadly, it brings out the worst in people with, panic buying and fighting over toilet paper and all that nonsense. But it also brings out the best in others. And then you look at the parties on people's balconies in Italy, and rooftop parties in London. It's absolutely brilliant. But it is.
I mean, that's changing
really
though, Paul. I'm not sure if you've read much about what's happening in Italy, but it feels like Italy is definitely on a bit of a downward spiral at the moment. I don't think they've put in the same kind of provisions that we have in terms of our government and pay. It sounds like people are running out of food. People are running out of money. I saw something on the news this morning, which was shocking, where one of I can't remember which city it was, but a mayor had basically called somebody out, an individual, and said, this person has not been abiding by the rules. They've been going about their daily life and they've had a test and they've had coronavirus, and a mob has essentially turned up outside this person's house. I think it is
really,
everything is on a knife edge at the moment, isn't it? And I think, we are I read another article in the Independent at the weekend, which was a woman, an Italian writer, saying, I'm writing to you from your future. And, that first week is,
yes,
you discover new technology. You're going on Houseparty and you're seeing your grandparents and you're having a drink with your mates in the virtual pub. Weeks 2 and 3 change, and we're at the start of week 2 of lockdown now. And I think it is, I suppose, I feel kind of lucky that we're in the UK and that we did wait that little bit longer. I don't know. And I'm not talking about this from a medical point of view. I'm talking about this from, our lifestyles. I think it's kind of reassuring to be able to look at what's happening in other countries and go, right, okay, so we're not going through this first. We can learn the lessons from other people a little bit more. But, who knows what's going to happen? And just from a kind of mental health perspective, I think the other thing is it's not just about kind of keeping yourself busy, trying to get routine. All those things are important. I was having a chat with a mate the other day, and he said, you haven't heard my bad news. I was like, right, well, tell me, mate, what's going on? And he goes, I might have coronavirus. I said, well, why do you think that? And he goes, well, I've had a bit of a sore throat, so I think I've probably got it. And I said, well, first of all, I really hope you haven't.
Anyway.
Second of all, it might just be a sore throat. I'm not going to lie to you. I quit smoking about 3 months ago. But when all this kicking off last week, I went and bought a pack of fags, and I probably smoked about 10 one evening. And I woke up the next morning, I went, I've got a sore throat. And I went, what? Obviously, because you smoked 10 fags and you haven't been smoking for ages. I think Tom's wearing a Keep Real t-shirt I see there. We do a podcast called Keep...
Now we need to look after our lungs more than ever when there's a virus like this going on.
I know. I have seen your tweets and how stupid smokers are, and I am very aware that it is a stupid thing to do. No, it's fine.
I forget that people actually see what I tweet.
Yeah, it's all good. But Tom's wearing a Keep Real t-shirt, and Keep Real is we do a podcast, Keep Real Mental Health Stories, a brand based in Yorkshire, a mental health brand who basically put on events, gigs, and all that kind of stuff, and encourage people talking. They've been how long has it been going for, Tom? Keep Real, good 3-4 years now, so it's quite an established brand.
Yeah.
But Josh, who's the guitarist in Venus Demilo, was the first episode on that. And we recorded it weeks before any of this came out, but it was about Josh and his health anxiety. And I really think that if you can, go and have a listen to that, because I think the really interesting thing about it is that how easily you can work yourself up into being very worried about the smallest of symptoms. You've got to be careful, and you've got to... if you've got a sore throat, you might just have a sore throat. That's what you've got to remember, I think, at the same time. It doesn't mean that you've got coronavirus. And like you said, Paul, actually, it's horrible to see any deaths at all. But in terms of the number of people who are surviving it and coming home, like I saw an 82-year-old man coming home from being in hospital, surviving coronavirus. If an 82-year-old man can do that, it doesn't kill everybody that it infects. And actually, it is a smaller rate, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think there was, I can't remember whether like 101-year-old or something who was born during the Spanish flu outbreak,
right.
And has now also recovered from coronavirus. And you think, yes,
wow.
This is, we don't want to ignore all the bad stuff that's going on. But yeah, we need to focus on that as well, because as you say, it's so important to get everything in perspective. I felt a little bit guilty the other night when I was in the mindset of, oh, this is terrible. I'm stuck at home with the kids most days. My wife's an NHS worker, so she's got to still be out there working. And I've almost had to grind my business to a halt. Woe is me, isn't it terrible? And I've got to look after the kids, and it's really stressful. And then I was watching the footage from the Italian hospitals, and it just looked like literal hell on earth. And I just thought, what have I got to moan and complain about? So the next day, whenever I felt like it was getting too much, I just reminded myself what I'm doing is absolutely nothing in comparison to what other people are going through.
Yeah, but
that's not to discount what people are feeling.
Yeah, at the same time, I've been saying, Tom, we were talking about this the other day, how everybody with this has had to face different problems, whether that is adjusting your life because you've got the kids at home, whether it's a loss of income, whether it's, I've lost clients, which is obviously, I'm building a business and I've been doing it for about a year. So it's devastating when someone turns around and says, look, we're really sorry, but we can't carry on with this for the time being. Tom, you're a musician. You play a lot of live function gigs as well as actually gigs with the band. Tom's in a position where everything's been cancelled and we don't know when it's going to come back. Yes, it doesn't compare to what some people are going through with this, but if it's a problem to you, it's a problem, isn't it? If it's don't belittle things just because you don't feel as if they're as bad or your situation is as bad as other people's. I think part of accepting what's going on and part of keeping a positive mindset is to look at the things that are bad and go, yeah, they are, feel it for a bit. But then I suppose it's kind of try and move on and then put it into perspective after feeling it. Don't just dismiss it.
You do need to address these things as a personal issue. But I also think at the same time, at the moment, that we have a responsibility on, more socially. So, outwardly socially, on things like social media, to almost be more positive, because at times like this, when everyone is having such a horrible time, I could talk about my own personal problems, but then there's millions of other people that have got exactly the same problem. So I think while it's great to be able to talk to you, say for example, Ben, about these things, someone that I'm close to.
We are brothers, by the way. We didn't say that at the beginning, but if you couldn't tell, I'm the handsome one.
Tom and Ben are brothers.
Yeah, Tom's the younger one. I'm the kind of handsome, dashing Anderson. Tom's got the musical talent.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh so much then. But I think so. Basically, what I'm saying is that from your own kind of point of view, my opinion is that you should share those problems with those that are immediately around you and should definitely talk about it, because talking about it has hugely helped me personally. But then also the things that you're putting online, or say, the things that we're saying on this, I think are mostly largely positive things, because society needs positivity right now. Like if I was going online and posting all of my problems, I feel like it's not helping anyone apart from maybe myself with a bit of therapy, where I could be doing that somewhere else, rather than, I don't want to post something like that and then find that I'm just bringing down a load of people who are already down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to acknowledge and to talk. I mean, there have been times when I've almost felt like I'm walking on eggshells of my own emotions, just whilst getting lunch ready for the kids in the kitchen, and just maybe dwelling on things a bit too much and starting to feel teary. I think that was more early on. We're sort of week 2 now. At the beginning, when it was just like, flipping heck, what is going on? And it all, in some ways it didn't happen fast enough, maybe, but in some ways it did happen very, very quickly. We went from completely normal life. We were aware of coronavirus because it was on the news, and then about a month or maybe even as much as 6 weeks ago at our church, they started saying some people, when they take communion, they dip the bread or the wafer into the wine, and they were saying, please don't do that anymore because it can spread infection because of coronavirus. And then we were saying, when we share the peace and, everyone shakes hands and said, maybe we shouldn't be shaking hands at the moment. And that started to come a little bit closer to home. And then obviously it then very quickly escalated to the situation we're in now, which is quite a shock to the system. Suddenly the schools and everything closing. I realised on the Thursday night, when it was like tomorrow's the last day, that my twin boys are at nursery, and I suddenly realised, and it hit me like someone had punched me in the chest, that tomorrow's their last ever day at nursery. Then realistically they're not going to be going back before the end of the summer holidays. And I thought back to last summer, on the last day before the summer holidays. It was a really nice sunny day, t-shirt and shorts, walking to the end of the road. One of them held the box of chocolates, one of them held the flowers for their nursery teachers, and it was such a happy and joyous occasion. And I just had that feeling inside of it shouldn't be like this. This isn't how their last ever day at their nursery that they absolutely love was meant to happen, and it wasn't sort of a nice celebration and a goodbye. It was literally, hand the bags at the door at arm's distance.
Yeah.
And my daughter Bella, who's 6, she cried when she got home, because I thought I've got to be honest with her and say, we don't know when you're going back to school. So she was like, well, when I go back, will I be in year 2? And I said, yeah, you might be. And she burst into tears. And I thought maybe I could have handled that a bit better, but I wanted to be honest. She said, well, I don't want year 1 to be finished. Her teacher and everything, she's not ready, and she hasn't said a proper goodbye. And then there are people in GCSE and A-level years who are missing out on their proms and their, we call it leavers ball, I think, at our school. And it's just so horrible in many ways, but then it's for the right reasons. And at least we're all, most of us, healthy, and it makes you realise, what's important in life, I guess. And these things in the old, pre-coronavirus were things that were very important to us. But maybe now we've all realised that these things aren't as important, and there are other things that are much more important, I guess.
Well, Jen was saying the other day, my girlfriend, she's saying, well, thank God, obviously this is one of those things, like you say, it did come about quite quickly. You see so much stuff in the news that you think, oh, this could have a big impact on my life. And then it just kind of fades away. This is the one that didn't fade, isn't it? And this is a kind of the big thing that our generation has had to face. Thank God we're not doing this in a pre-internet time. Thank God we've got Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, Netflix. Like, can you imagine doing this with the kids, especially when we didn't have that sort of technology?
Absolutely, yeah. I said that to Rachel the other day. I said, if this had happened 10 years ago, well, I suppose we didn't have kids 10 years ago, so it would have been much easier from that point of view. But, if we didn't have all this technology, then, the kids are doing, I'll come on to it all in a minute, but, the PE with Joe on 9 o'clock on YouTube, and then there's Maddie and Greg doing their live show at 11, and there's loads of stuff. And, the fact that we can do this, it's almost, it's the best, if it's going to happen at all, it's the best time for it to have happened, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
In terms of the speed of things, I mean, we're not going to dwell too much on this and the political stuff, but I wonder if it was always part of a planned, gradual approach, because a lot of people are saying, well, we should have had lockdown 2 weeks before we actually did, but I don't think that would have worked. I think the British public hadn't yet been conditioned, if you like, to take it seriously. Apart from a few notable exceptions, people have, by and large, completely complied, haven't they? Which is fantastic. I'm not sure if that would have been the case if it had gone from hearing it on the news in January, the other side of the world, a long way away in people's minds, to then we had the cruise ships and people being stranded on cruise ships. But again, that's a long way away. It doesn't affect me. To suddenly lockdown, people would have gone, no, what are you talking about? But because we had the gradual break into it, so I wonder if, behind closed doors, they'd always said, ideally we should have complete lockdown now, but that's not going to work. If we want it to work, we've got to do it in this staged way. And I'm just hypothesizing, which probably isn't very helpful, but I just wonder if that's the way.
Well, they did say when they first started bringing in these measures that it's not only based on the science of the disease, but also behavioural science as well. I do think it comes into play because even though this country, in the UK, we've got a lot of ideas about what we are as, as part of identity. But actually, I think part of what we're about is that we don't really like to follow the rules, and we like to try and rebel wherever possible. So then I think that it was one of those why it took like a bit of time to push a bit further down the road where, like you say, we wouldn't have necessarily said yes straight away. But we needed a bit of warming up to the idea, and I think the government knew that.
Yeah, and I mean, there was the whole thing about if they put us in lockdown too early, then or talk about social distancing too early, then people will get tired of it and not do it, sort of be less effective. And all that. So yeah, it's interesting. Well, with everything going on, let's have a little quick talk about sort of how the world of technology, because this is of course a technology podcast, is responding to this. And the obvious one, I suppose, as we've touched on already, is live video and video conferencing, video meeting, video chat, and all the rest of it. Has really come into its own, and a lot of us, I'm sure, have been using it since. When did Skype launch? I should have looked it up. It's about 2002, 2003 or something like that. So it's not a new technology at all. And to a lot of people, it's not a new thing. But I think a lot of people that have been aware of it but never really used it before have now started using it an awful lot more, which is great. And I hope that continues long after this crisis is over, with people traveling less when they don't really need to. I don't want everyone to never travel and see anyone face to face, but I think a lot of business meetings where people are needlessly driving up and down the motorway for an hour-long meeting that doesn't need to be face to face is definitely a great thing. In terms of the routine in our house at the moment, as I said before, PE with Joe at 9 a.m, which has been absolutely brilliant. Have either of you guys heard of that or done it?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard a lot about it. Is it on Instagram, that, or is it YouTube?
It's on YouTube. So if you look for, I think it's the Body Coach TV, his channel's called, and then 9 a.m. for half an hour. I've done it most days, and it's really tiring. I mean, I wasn't in my, I hadn't yet got dressed on the first day, so I was in my pajamas. And I ended up having to take my pajama top off and close the blinds to protect any neighbours walking past. So I've made sure to sort of get dressed into my PE kit first.
It is amazing, actually, the kind of creativity that comes out of stuff like this. Like Richie, who's one of the hosts on A Girl and a Gay in the Gym, he's doing a live Instagram workout on his own personal page, Richie Swan, every day at 10 a.m. And today I saw him do it for the first time. He's going to do it with Hattie, who's the girl from A Girl and a Gay in the Gym, on Sunday, and she's the gym bird on Instagram. But I didn't realise that you could split screen, that two people could go live at the same time on Instagram. So he's got, for the first day today, a girl called Gemma, who runs Noughts and Kisses, like this big fashion brand, is one of Richie's clients. He was leading the workout on Instagram, and she was doing it in the split screen. And, and that's great,
That's brilliant, yeah. Again, for the kids, at 11 a.m, Maddie Moat and Greg Foote are doing a weekly show. I think they're having a theme every week. So last week it was all about gardens. So we had an episode all about birds.
Is this Maddie from, what's it called again, the YouTube channel?
Fully Charged.
Fully Charged. Is it Fully Charged, Maddie?
Yeah.
Ah, great. I like her.
So the same Maddie. So she's a TV presenter for CBeebies, and then she runs her own YouTube channel. This week it's all about the human body. I've not seen any of the ones yet this week, but you can catch up. They were making a poo yesterday, so I think they were teaching kids about the digestive system, which is quite cool. Okay. So I mean, lots of examples of stuff like that. My friend Liz, shout out to Liz if you're listening. She runs the playgroup at our church, and I've helped her to set up or to get going on doing Facebook Live sing-alongs for the kids. So she's there with a little ukulele, taking requests and doing sing-songs. So that's on. They're doing that every Thursday on. They've set up like a private Facebook group for all the kids and obviously the parents of the kids to get that going. And my sister, who lives down south, she's doing a similar thing with hers as well. So that's great, and that's reaching out to people that maybe couldn't go along anyway in normal times. Having some sort of online element to that is obviously excellent. So it's bringing businesses and families together. This whole situation and getting everyone using video calling. I think it was the biggest ever day for the video calling industry on about day 2 of this all happening. I think it was the guy who is in charge of Google Duo said how the video calling industry had suddenly exploded massively. And of course, there had to be measures put in place. Netflix and Facebook, and for their video quality has had to be reduced for the time being to preserve internet bandwidth for people like what we're doing now, so that the whole internet doesn't grind to a halt with all the extra traffic and load. But it's great that switches can be flicked around the place to make sure that it still works for everyone.
Well, you know, Houseparty, the app that everyone's talking about in terms of the video chat side of things. I've never heard of Houseparty before last week. I saw a tweet.
I don't think anyone had.
No. Well, exactly. I saw a tweet from them this morning saying that somebody had hacked into them or something. They were offering, and you can email bounty@houseparty.com. Yeah. They're offering $1 million reward for anyone who's got information on the person who hacked it. And you go, how's this company that I've never heard of suddenly got $1 million to give away?
Well,
you know, it's just
venture capitalists, I suppose.
No.
So what they're actually offering is, because someone has been apparently spreading rumours that they've been hacked when they actually haven't been hacked, what they say as a part of an effort to smear them and you know, by a competitor or someone, I presume, is the undertone there. So they're wanting.
We're looking at you, Zoom.
Yeah, was it you? Evidence that they've made it up is what they're looking for, and they obviously they reckon it's worth $1 million or $1 million to find that.
If I'd done it, it's definitely worth telling them. I'm spreading rumours. It's me. I'm spreading the rumours.
It was me. Can I have the $1 million now, please? Yeah. In terms of positivity, we were discussing before we went on air, weren't we? The viral Les Mis video, the family in Faversham put out, which was just absolutely brilliant. I saw it last night, and then it was on BBC Breakfast this morning, and absolutely superb. But I should let the listeners know that all three of us have been in productions of Les Mis. We all went to the same school, King Edward's in Birmingham, and Ben and I were in our production of it in 2004. What year was your one, Tom? I can't remember.
2011. A long time ago.
So maybe we should all do a rendition of One Day More now.
The first one that came out literally like day 2 of this thing, and all the celebrities had sung Imagine, and there was literally not one good piece of press around it.
No.
Every single person was just going, and all of these celebrities have just unanimously shown how out of touch they are.
Yeah, it's
everyone's business is collapsing around them, but it's okay because this randomer that's in their mansion in LA is singing Imagine. Sorry, are you guys going to say you loved that now?
Well, no, I mean, Paul, you're the world's biggest Les Mis fan, aren't you? So I'm not surprised that you liked it at all. I literally, and I can't really comment on it because I was on in the background this morning on BBC Breakfast. That's where I saw it, and I must have seen. I was on my laptop at the same time, so I heard it come on, and I reckon I gave him about 3 seconds for I press mute. And went, oh my God!
I think that is some of the feel good content that you need in times like this, though, because even though that's not going to speak to everybody, that's going to cheer someone up, or probably many people up. So I think that's exactly the kind of thing that we should be looking for.
Like me.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably see it after this, and I think it'll probably lift my spirits after this conversation.
It definitely cheered me up, because what they'd done as well is they'd rewritten the lyrics to relate to the current situation, like the watch and run amok line. The dad was singing and looking after these kids because they just don't give up. And then he took a swig from a bottle of champagne. And I mean, it makes me think, why didn't I think of that? And if my kids were a little bit older, then I would absolutely try and do something like that with them. Obviously, the idea's been had, so it'd be a blatant copy, but I don't mind that.
You know what? See what I retweeted yesterday? The guy who wrote a sign saying... the comment on the tweet was, "Oh, everyone's making signs to put in their window, so I've made this one for my neighbour," which just said, "Hey, who's that strange Victorian boy, the pale Victorian boy who keeps appearing in your loft window?" Well, there is, I think we've got to keep positivity. You're right, and maybe I am just cynical.
I was saying to someone this morning, it's almost like GDPR all over again. The way every single business you've ever given your email address to has suddenly decided to email you to tell you what they're doing to fight COVID-19.
Yeah.
And you think, well, I didn't really need an update from the CEO of Hermes just because I've bought something on eBay that happened to be delivered by Hermes and they've somehow got my email address. And there are a lot of special discount offers, and I think you're offering your $50 a month package for $1 a month during this crisis. Really? Or have people just thought, right, let's pivot our marketing to all be coronavirus related, and we'll go in with the guise of we're giving it away for next to nothing initially to help you because our products will help you, and then of course you're going to get hooked and realize it's the best thing ever, and then we'll jack the price up in 6 months time when it's all over type thing.
I've actually found that some of these companies have made me like them less by sending me these emails, because one of them, who I won't say my name, but it's my phone provider. They sent me an email that, if you look at it to begin with, it would look like they're basically going to bail everyone out during coronavirus, and they are just being so accommodating to everybody. But then when you look into it, actually all they're doing is making calls to 111 free. It's like, oh, right, okay, thanks for that, guys. You mean that one call that I might possibly have to make in the next however long, and I'm already paying a fortune for the unlimited minutes.
And it's not free already?
Why was it not? Yeah, why was it not free anyway?
Well, yeah.
Why were you making money out of people being ill and needing medical advice anyway?
And then there being another one as well, where they were kind of making a big point about how people that have lost all of their income over the next few months, they can get this subscription that I subscribe to for work for free. And it turns out it was actually just a 1 month free trial for new customers. And they basically said at the bottom, sorry, existing customers, essentially deal with it. And you just think like, well, actually, if I can find your product elsewhere now, from trying to look like you're doing everyone a favor when really you're just trying to flog a product, is like, I just think it's shameful.
There's a line, isn't there?
I agree.
There's definitely a line to tread, because at the same time, we need businesses to keep making money. You know, obviously this is a medical crisis, but the economic impacts will be huge, and huge on all of us. It's great that our government, for example, are paying 80% of wages. It's great that they've now stepped in and said they're going to help freelancers and the self-employed. We're also, every single business after this, the coffers need to be filled up again. You know, it's going to impact everybody in a massive way. So I think, you know, as much as business can continue, then go for it. But you're right, Tom, it is also that thing of, don't jazz this up to be you being wonderful people. It's fine just to say, we're open for business and we're going to keep making money. Just say that. Don't try and fluff it up.
Because profit shouldn't be seen as a dirty word. You know, companies making profits is what enables them to be around this time next year and continue paying their staff. So, yeah, almost trying to run away from that is counterintuitive. You know, I'm perfectly happy with you making a profit, because if you don't make a profit, then you won't exist and I can't benefit from your service anymore. So treat your customers like the intelligent beings that they are, and just say, we're still making money because, well, we need to, and you need us to make money so that we can still provide you with your service. I'm sure a lot of companies, video conferencing companies in particular, have done very well out of this, and that's absolutely fine. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, they've done well out of this, they should donate all the money to the NHS or to charities or whatever. I mean, if they want to and they do, then that's great, but you know, their costs will increase as well. I mean, I've upgraded my Zoom account because I wanted to remove the 40-minute time limit for calls like this, and then the pub quiz that I did at the weekend, which went on for about an hour and a half, I think. So there we are. Zoom have made some money out of me, which is absolutely fine, because I'm using their service.
Yeah, because you need them.
Finding it great.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Also, some of our listeners, I put a shout out yesterday asking for people to give their tips and things. We've had people talk about Zoom, or Skype and Zoom. Nadia Van Gordon, who's a private English tutor, she's been doing tutoring sessions via Zoom. She said it's gone really well, much better than teacher and students expected. So, you know, they can share resources and screens and stuff, which is really good. And then I had someone from the NHS get in touch saying they're having work meetings using Skype for Business. Obviously, you can choose voice or video, and then using patients and people using Zoom to stay in touch with friends and family, which is great. Being able to see people's faces as well, because obviously picking up the phone and speaking to someone is almost as old as time itself, but actually being able to see the person and see a human face is so important. And obviously services like that cost an awful lot to run, and there's the infrastructure and the network behind that. I don't mind paying a bit for that and them profiting from that so that they can pay their workers and engineers well to do all of that. So, yeah, I think that's great.
Something unexpected that's come out of this is that actually I've probably seen my friends from school more through the computer in the last few weeks than I have done for years, because we've kind of had this impetus that now, because we can't see anybody, and we've realised how easy it is for all of us to suddenly see each other, because we all live in different parts of the country. But yeah, it's actually quite a nice thing about this has been speaking to them as often as I have, and things like that. So I think there is also some unexpected consequences which hopefully will carry on after this is all over as well.
Excellent. That's brilliant. And yeah, I want to hear more and more positive stories like that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we've been doing and using technology in order to help people. The first thing I want to talk about is churches obviously aren't meeting up, any form of large groups of people meeting together is obviously off the cards. So what we've been doing in our churches, and I've seen loads of others doing the same, is producing videos. Some churches are doing actual live streams. We've been doing pre-recorded videos where we have a bit by one person, bit by another person, sloshing them together and then putting them out as a premiere video on YouTube and Facebook. Our vicar Ian did a brilliant how to juggle based sermon talking about perseverance and not dropping the ball, and linking that into the theme with everything there, which was really great. And then something else that I've produced, which has been really nice to see loads of other churches around the country and around the world, is I was very aware that everything we were doing was great for the majority of people who have access to the internet, and they can listen to the podcast that we produce each week with the sermon recording on the smart speaker or watch it on the website. But obviously some people don't have access to the internet at all, and I didn't want them to be left behind. So I've used a service called Twilio and set up just a normal telephone number. So we're based in Liverpool, so I've used a normal 01501 number, and all that happens is an old person or a vulnerable person or anyone that doesn't have the internet can be given that number. They can dial that number on a Sunday morning, and then it'll just literally play the recording down the phone to them. Which is absolutely brilliant. It works fantastically because the elderly generation are very familiar with picking up the phone and dialing a number, and it means that they're not left behind by all the modern kids using the internet and everything to listen and watch. So that's been really great. And then Ben, I was talking to you about that, wasn't I? Mm-hmm. And we've also put a little bit of a podcast spin on it as well for other entertainment. So tell us about Storyphone.
So you put me onto the idea, which is great. Not going to use the technology you suggested, though, purely because I think...
apparently not.
Yeah, because obviously, calls cost money, even if it's if you've got free calls package for landline minutes on your mobile or your landline, someone's still got to pay for it somewhere. And I think for something like you're doing, for kind of community groups, it's a great idea because the charges are very small, but obviously very small charges can become very big charges if you've got a lot of people. Okay. But yeah, so because I did a bit of research on it, apparently 5 million people in the UK don't have access to the internet, which is mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean, they were figures from the back end of last year, but you'd imagine they're still pretty accurate. But a lot of those people will be older. So just the idea called Storyphone, where you call up and like say an 0151 number, which is Liverpool local area code, and it just is somebody on the end of the phone going, hi, you've chosen to listen to the Boscombe Valley Mystery, a Sherlock Holmes story. And then that's the other reason I'm looking at other solutions pools, because, these things are going to go on you're going to be listening to it for 45 minutes to an hour. So actually that's when a kind of longer form, that's when the costs start to rack up. And as a small business, I can't cover those. So actually I've been talking to a big provider, telecoms provider in Birmingham, who've got all of the contacts with the massive big telephone providers, and it looks like we might be getting somewhere with them covering the costs. So it seems like
all the best things come from Birmingham.
Well, quite. But the idea would be, because we, in our podcast network, we've got actors, we've got radio presenters, we've got loads of people who've already said, we'd love to voice something for you. So the idea would be just to kind of start off with a few different stories, but it's essentially a bit of company for older people who can't get onto the internet and just want to hear a voice to call up, and easy to do it, isn't it? Call an 0151 number. Everyone can use a phone. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I'm
on demand. Yeah.
I really hope, because it's, in a time like this, you want to do your bit. And my skills are producing audio. That's the only thing I know how to do. And you kind of rack your brains going, well, how can I use that as a force for good? And this is hopefully that. But we're just trying to, because I didn't want to go and crowdfund for it. I think if people are giving money at the moment, they should be giving it to the NHS. Like, for example, if you watch Bongo's Bingo do their Twitch live stream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really good.
I heard about this.
They've been doing bingo. They all kind of self-isolated together. Him, Rich, who's his co-host on it. I think it's one of the dancers. I was going to say a name, but obviously we can't swear on this podcast, can we? But she's got a bit of a naughty name, so I'm just going to hold off. It's something Susie.
I can bleep it out. It's fine.
Yes. Susie is there, but they're kind of doing it. They're the Lad Bible ended up picking it up and doing a stream on the Lad Bible's page of the day, but they're raising money for the NHS. Yeah. So I thought I could go and crowd. Anyway, long story short, I thought I could go and crowdfund for this, but actually I think we should probably, if we're giving money, give it straight to the NHS at this point in time. So if a big company can come in and cover the costs, then great, then we'll get it off the ground. But we'll see. Trying really hard, so fingers crossed.
Excellent, yeah. Tom, you've been going to the pub via Zoom, haven't you? Have you been finding that?
Can't keep away.
Yeah, literally been living in the Zoom pub. No, I haven't. I've been doing it probably every couple of days, so it's not developing into a Zoom problem yet. But
Zoomaholics Anonymous.
Yeah. But it started last week or whenever it, not long after the original self-quarantine began, because I just, when you just really fancy going to the pub, but obviously talking to your mate on FaceTime, it doesn't feel like that. So in my head, if I just called it going to the pub and we both got a beer and put it into a branded glass at the same time, then it would feel like we were at the pub. And actually, you know what? After about 3 or 4 pints, it does start to feel like
yeah, it sort of just becomes indistinguishable. Yeah,
exactly. But you do start to lose that feeling of being on FaceTime after a good while, because we were using it differently in ways that we've used it before, where we would just kind of leave it on for say 2 minutes if we went downstairs to go and get a drink, and then you'd come back up and I'd be maybe doing something else over here, and then but my mate would be there, so I could just kind of chat to them in a bit more looser terms than you perhaps normally would, and let's say
as and when. Yeah, well, I remember when I lived in Madrid for a while, and I would Skype with my then girlfriend, now wife, Rachel, and quite often we would just get on with what we were doing. I'd get on with a bit of work or whatever. We'd just have Skype on in the background because, we'd sort of almost run out of things to say, about how was your day and stuff. We just wanted to sort of be together. And it's quite nice that you can, because it's not like a per minute cost or anything. You can literally just whack it on in the corner as if the person was in the same room as you, but getting on with something else. You can just do that, can't you? Which is great. Yeah. On the subject of the pub, I hosted a pub quiz on Saturday just gone via Zoom, which was absolutely brilliant. I sort of had the crazy idea to do it, and then invited a few people, and then more and more people started coming, and then I started getting more and more nervous and going, oh no, I've got to make this half decent now. But it worked really well.
Oh, hello.
And, I was sat in the pub with I managed to. I'm going to do a full tutorial video on Switched On Network so that other people can do this. I managed to figure out how to get a different video source where I can do all the fancy stuff, and a different audio source for like the music round. Obviously, I can't demonstrate that sadly because of copyright reasons. So unless I load in like a Venus Demilo song or something,
please feel free.
Then and that worked brilliantly, and I could do stuff like the picture round, pop the BMW logo on and stuff like that. And what we had Burger King as well as the answers. So that was really good, and I'd encourage other people to do the same.
Well, I think you might need
join us, aren't you?
You might need a longer video feed because it feels like a glitch in the Matrix at the moment with this chap in the red shirt just walking.
I know, yeah, just walking past again and again.
Tom, have a watch out for it. It'll be back in a minute.
Yeah. And then I had this one as well. I was learning some tricks behind the bar doing this with this fella.
Nice. So. What's his name?
Gary,
yeah, that's it.
Gary knows his stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah,
he looks a bit smug. Oh, there he is, man in the red shirt.
There he is again.
Back again.
So yeah, I mean that worked really well. I really enjoyed doing that, and it's going to become a weekly thing, I think, because it helps people with the whole mental health thing, doesn't it? Not getting bored and not feeling isolated. You can meet up with people like that. Other things that have been really useful, obviously Microsoft Teams and Slack. A lot of businesses have been using them an awful lot more, and hopefully realizing that they could have been using them an awful lot more all this time. And I think flexible working, companies are going to have a hard time stopping people working flexibly.
We'll never go back
in the future where they might have done before. Yeah. We can't go back to how we were. We want to get back to normal, but that normal can't be the same as what it was before, because this was allowed to happen, and the way it spread around the world, we can never go back to a situation that allows that to happen again. But also,
I don't think
all the benefits that we're seeing.
Yeah, I don't think it's because of that. I think it's just in terms of if you are, let's go. We were talking earlier about businesses making money, profits. If you're a business who has a massive city centre office with lovely big glass windows and 200 desks in there, but actually 150 of them can feasibly work from home. Why don't you just pay for the one nice meeting room in the centre of town and let everyone else do it remotely?
Exactly. Massively cut your costs as a business, and then you can either pass that on to your customers in the form of lower pricing. You can, pay your staff a bit more because you're not having to pay for the massive office. Loads of things. Yeah. Teams struggled initially. It had quite a lot of outages with the sudden surge in users. So they obviously would have had to put more infrastructure and bandwidth behind there. It seems to be sorted now. As of the 19th of March, I've not got a more up-to-date stat, but so the 19th of March, which was a couple of weeks ago, it had 12 million extra daily users.
Wow.
Which is just phenomenal. So that's really good that people are using that a lot more. Some other things that I've spotted around the place. Someone sent me this. I've not been able to independently verify this, although Switched On Network is dedicated to accurate and factual content. I'll have to trust the author on this, but a popular website that provides entertaining video content aimed at an adult audience has been offering people free premium memberships, apparently.
Wow.
Encouraging them to stay at home and help flatten the curve. So I suppose people can take matters into their own hands to help contribute towards this. Literally. Mobile networks. I've not seen this on mine.
Thanks for sending that over to Paul, by the way, Tom.
Oh yeah, cheers, Tom.
Welcome, Paul.
Thanks. Mobile networks, on your phone where it will say like the network name, so like 3 or Virgin Mobile or whatever. And I've seen them in loads of different countries. On the article I found, have changed that bit of text to say "stay at home," or obviously the translation into whatever language, which is quite cool. Chris Martin, Ben sent me this a little while ago, and then I wrote a little article on the Switched On Network website about Chris Martin doing his sort of free live stream gig on Instagram from his living room, which was really good. I wonder if Venus Demilo are going to do anything similar maybe during the lockdown, stream a free gig.
Yeah, I keep saying that we're going to, and to be honest, we just haven't done it yet, but we will. Yeah. We will. I promise.
I will definitely tune into that. That'd be brilliant. Yeah, loads of great stuff for NHS workers as well, which I've seen. My wife and I got 25% off our takeaway the other night, which was very nice. Thank you to Just Eat. So if you have an NHS email address, you can go to just-eat.co.uk/NHS, and then they will send to an NHS email address like a discount code. I think it's important to not just be congratulating the NHS too much, because obviously there's a lot of people that are non-NHS that are providing essential work and stuff. And it does make me feel slightly uncomfortable when I see all this stuff about thanking our doctors and nurses. And it must be a bit jarring if you work in the NHS and you're not a doctor or nurse, but you're doing equally vital work, like if you're a physiotherapist doing respiratory physio or something. So I think it's important not to sort of follow the herd too much in these terms, like, clap our doctors and nurses. Let's clap everyone who's helping. But yeah, as we were saying before, it shows that we should be doing a lot of this stuff, during normal times as well. There's no need to travel so much for meetings if it can be done by video conferencing. Maybe not all, but probably the majority. And then there's this infection control stuff, like in Tesco and other supermarkets. They've got these screens up, to protect the cashier, but also the customer, from infection. And I'm just wondering, at what point will they go, right, we're going to take that down now because it's a good idea. So why would you ever take it down? And when will we ever be at the point where we go, well, we can definitely take this down now? And coronavirus wise, that would only be when every single person on the planet has had a vaccine, surely. So yeah, I think these measures are going to be around for a while.
I think it's really important that things like that do stop, though, because the thing that would be really easy out the other side of this is to become a much less integrated society where we have much less human contact and people. And say, for example, with the checkouts, is that we completely lose human checkouts and we'll just go completely to self-checkouts at the point where people can actually work out how to use them. And
yeah, that won't be me.
It'd be, but like, I think it's
Ben one the of those. We'll do an episode on self-checkouts.
Oh, God, just that voice just made in.
Help out.
Unexpected item in the bag.
Shut up.
Yeah.
After this, like, are people going to be quite as happy shaking hands or like hugging in the same way that we used to before, or is that something that's going to get phased out? Because I think if we're sending signals out like, well, the cashier is always going to be protected by this massive plastic sheet, then that's the kind of signal that sends out to the rest of to the rest of society to say, well, actually, you know what, we're just going to become a lot less connected.
Yeah, I do agree. I think it is important that we don't forever lose, physical contact. I think, especially in Britain, we're quite British, stiff upper lip about physical contact anyway. I think we should be more European and more like, people who are more happy to give each other a hug and kiss on the cheek and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I'd be very sad if that didn't return. And I think hopefully it will return. And there's the whole political angle on the powers that the police have. How long will they have them for, and will they potentially be abused and kept in place for too long and used for not the initial purpose? So that's very important. I want to move on and now to what the tech industry is doing to help the actual cause. So we've talked a lot about how technology is helping people in self-isolation to stop us going stir crazy and help us sort of start to live our lives a little bit more. But obviously the technology industry has got a lot to contribute to helping the world fight this as well. Before we dive into that, though, I want to give a very quick shout out to today's sponsor for helping to make this episode possible. If you've not already heard of it, Skillshare is a bit like Netflix for learning and developing new skills, so it fits ideally into Switched On Network's mission statement, which is, of course, to help our viewers and listeners to feel more switched on to the world around them. And with everything going on right now with coronavirus, we need people who are really switched on more than ever. So we're about to talk about what the science and technology industry is doing to help fight COVID-19, and a big part of this is through coding and computer programming to build apps and write software to help solve these complex problems. Skillshare's got thousands of classes in design, business, technology, and more. And there's a great course by Applause Interactive, which is called Coding for Beginners, You Can Code. And that's 32 bite-sized lessons, 8 hours of video in total, which is very affordably priced. It's only between £7 and £13 a month. But as a Switched On Network subscriber, you can get 2 months completely free to try it out and see if it works for you. So click the link in the show notes or video description and get learning some new skills which will increase your value to employers and possibly even to help you to help mankind. So the first thing I want to talk about, and again, I wrote a brief article on the Switched On Network website last week or the week before on this, is folding at home. This is the concept of distributed computing, where rather than having one absolutely massive big supercomputer in one place, lots of very small but equally powerful, when you add them all together, computers spread around the world can do sort of great tasks. And I first became aware of this when I bought my PS3, which would have been in about 2007, I think. Obviously, the PlayStation is a very powerful machine, used to churning out and generating high resolution, good quality graphics. But when you're not using it, that computer could be put to good use, and it would sort of almost a bit like a screensaver on a computer, but rather than literally just displaying something, it would be doing calculations and simulating protein folding and things in the background, downloading jobs from Stanford University in the States to then run these simulations and then send the results of the experiments back. Wow. And that's been going on, for years and years. To be honest, I've not really had it installed or paid much attention to it since then, but I noticed that they're producing lots of simulations to help for coronavirus, as well as other diseases like Parkinson's and cancer and things like that. So, with my big powerful video editing computer and my GTX 1080 graphics card, I've had that going pretty much 24/7 for the last week or so. Obviously it's going to put my electricity bill up a bit, but I see that as a worthwhile donation to the cause. So if anyone listening or watching has a good powerful computer, if you've got a gaming PC, or if you do video editing and you've got that power there, install Folding at Home, and that will genuinely really help in the fight against the virus.
I'm really sorry, Paul. I've got no idea what you mean. Like, what are you doing, and how does it help?
This is the concept of distributed computing is, rather than having one absolutely massive computer that does all the work, lots of little computers spread around the work do lots of little bits of work, right, and then send it in. So this is running
so you're giving your computer power to the overall ecosystem of, got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So my computer will be given one small little experiment to do, simulate what happens when we do this to a bit protein or something like that. I'm not a biologist, so I don't understand it in that level.
It's a bit like the kind of national grid, in the sense of, you're able to put something in as well as take out. You're giving your computer's power to whoever is working out the best way of Got you. Right, I'm in.
That's it. So when I'm not using it, although to be honest, my graphics card is powerful enough that it can be, going at full power, and I still don't really notice a difference yet. It's constantly in the background doing bits of work for them and then sending the results in.
Great.
And then they combine that, which is excellent.
Clever.
It's brilliant. LinusTechTips, I don't know if you've heard of that's a big technology YouTube channel. I saw on their Instagram this morning they're 3D printing PPE face shields for medical staff. The website is OpShieldsUp.org. They had a row of, must have been about 10 or 20 3D printers that they have anyway, and they've downloaded the files to start printing face shields to help with the shortage over there in Canada. TechForUK is another group that has joined together with various other tech groups in the UK, and there's something called Code4COVID now, which is a coalition of grassroots UK tech initiatives. They've come together to coordinate the key groups of tech industry people supporting the UK's response to coronavirus. And they're doing various things, partly on a more scientific level and partly on a more social level to help either, the medics fighting the disease and developing vaccines, but also, coordinating people to help the most vulnerable in our society. There's COVID-19 Mutual Aid UK, which is a group of volunteers supporting local community groups organising mutual aid throughout the COVID-19 outbreak in the UK, and they focus on providing resources and connecting people to their nearest groups and volunteers, helping those in need. So, there's just loads and loads of really heartwarming examples of the technology industry sort of downing tools and then picking up to help with this. There's a Californian company that usually makes green energy fuel cells. They're due to deliver 170 repaired ventilators to Los Angeles. They probably have by the time we're recording this. They'd been in storage since the H5N1 bird flu outbreak of the mid-2000s, and they've fixed them and getting them working. Did you see as well that the Mercedes Formula One team have been building a new breathing aid?
Brilliant.
That was on the news last night as well.
Not just Mercedes, but McLaren are involved. So British companies, McLaren.
Really? Yeah,
they're getting stuck in.
Have you seen that JCB have made ventilators that are bright yellow and branded JCB?
Are they?
Well, they're making the casing for it.
And Dyson have been given a contract as well. There's obviously the political element there that Brexit supporting Tory donor companies have been given contracts to make ventilators when maybe other people should have been instead. What else? Google and YouTube have launched new resource pages to help teachers and families continue to educate students whilst they're at home due to the novel coronavirus. And something you might have noticed if you've been watching YouTube videos on the topic is that partly to avoid sort of fake or bad information, any video that has any mention of coronavirus, Google, YouTube have put underneath links to the official information,
right?
That's the most prominent thing that people are going to see and click on, which is great. That will almost certainly be on this video if you're watching this on YouTube, because obviously we're talking about coronavirus and COVID-19 there. Something else Google have done, and there's going to be a video on the Switched On Network channel demonstrating this. You can ask Google, if you've got a Google Home device, to help you wash your hands, and it will sing a merry little song to you for 40 seconds about how to wash your hands and about how you should keep washing it for that time. So you can keep washing until the song's finished, which is quite a funny little idea. But something like that, comical as it is, could have a real big impact, because if it gets everyone properly washing their hands, then what a fantastic legacy. And hopefully that's one of the many things that will continue after this crisis. People wash their hands properly, it'll make a massive difference. So that's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So finally, to sort of round off the episode, we've got a few tips for listeners if you're wanting to either help towards the cause or tips to stay sane at home. The first one is install Folding at Home on your computer if you've got a powerful computer. There's a link on the Switched On Network website to how to set that up. It's very easy. You literally just install a bit of software and it'll do the rest for you. If you use WhatsApp, the World Health Organization have a WhatsApp bot where you can get information sent to you. You can sort of have like a two-way conversation and ask for current updates and things. So if you add the contact +41 79 893 1892 to your WhatsApp and then just send a message hi to that contact, then you can start getting up-to-date, correct information from the World Health Organization. The UK government have done one as well. The number for that's 07860 064422. And again, if you add that to your contacts and send a message on WhatsApp just saying hi, then it will start that sort of bot conversation with you, and you can get up-to-date information, FAQs, myth busting, that sort of thing as well. Another tip I've got down, which I think I'm going to try this summer, it's be great as an activity with the kids as well, is why don't people start growing their own veg in their garden more? That's something we as a society don't do that much anymore. But rather than moaning that there's no fruit and veg left in the shop, why not, if you have space obviously, clear out a bit in your garden and get a veg patch going? Be a great activity for the kids, so it kills two birds with one stone. It'll sort out your food supply, and it will sort out your entertainment supply.
Put them
for
to
the kids.
work.
Put them to work, definitely. I used to homebrew as well, make my own beer and cider. Did it for several years, but I've not done it as much recently because having a big 40-pint barrel in the kitchen, staying warm for 2 weeks with a nice inviting tap on the front isn't the best of ideas when you've got young children running around the house. But hopefully I'm going to try and find somewhere.
There's a story there that you won't tell us.
Yeah. But fortunately it didn't happen, but I'm too afraid to do it. My final tip with regards to exercise, at the moment we can get out and go for runs and bike rides out of the house. And I'm fortunate that I've got a turbo trainer for my bike, so even if we are stuck inside, I can go on that. But if you don't have a turbo trainer, you can always try making one yourself. If all you really need to do is lift the back wheel of your bike up. Obviously, it's not going to have the variable resistance on there, but it'll be better than nothing. And you might have seen the videos going around social media of parents who've got their kids' bikes with stabilizers on and lifted them up by putting the stabilizer wheels in some shoes on the floor, and then the kids are pedaling away on their bike, staying still in front of the telly or something, which is, great that innovation like that is coming out of this time of adversity.
Absolutely.
So I've got Sky News on in the background. Celebrities are backing a charity auction raising money for the NHS, which is being broadcast from a garden shed. There we go. Isn't technology great?
Cool. So it's been a little bit of a different episode this week. Obviously less of technology questions, but I hope you found this interesting, and it's been great having Tom on. Thanks for joining us on this episode.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and we'll have you on again, I'm sure. So if you've enjoyed this episode and you're watching on a video platform, then please do give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you've been doing in the comments, or if you're watching, or if you're listening rather, on a podcast app, you can tweet us at SwitchedOnNet. Let us know how you're coping with lockdown, and let us know any tips that you've got for passing the time, looking after kids, or whatever. And if you'd like to help support the Switched On Network so we can continue bringing you more content like this, then we do have a Patreon as well. There are links in the video description and show notes, and we'd really appreciate any support that you want to give us on there, and we return the favour with a bit of extra bonus content and other stuff like that. But that's it for this episode. Thanks to Tom, thanks for Ben. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Switched On Network podcast, produced by Sound Rebel and Inabella Media. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, or your chosen podcast app. And give us a thumbs up, click like, or give us a rating and a review. You can follow us at Switched On Network on Facebook and Instagram, and at Switched On Net on Twitter. Discover more of Sound Rebel's podcasts at soundrebel.co.uk.